Hi, everyone. We will be starting very shortly, just in a few moments as people are joining. Thank you. Hi, everyone. This is Sami Karakand. I'm the founder of Dockagent, and I will be your host in this webinar. So we do have a small crowd today. We have two attendees. I would propose that we all jump in host or panelist mode, and that's going to allow us to interact since we're a small group. So just give me a moment. I'm going to promote everyone to panelist. And you don't have to share your camera or your microphone if you don't want to, that's fine. Excellent. So I hope everyone can hear me well. I'm going to be sharing my screen. Great. So welcome to Dockagent. I'm going to be spending the next 45 minutes or so going over what Dockagent can do in terms of use cases, how to use it, little bits of tricks here and there. But I also want to keep it open-ended so that if you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to interrupt me or ask me anything. I would prefer that you, if possible, unmute yourself and ask me any question you want whenever you want, because I'm not going to be necessarily looking at the Q&A panel during the demo. So that being said, let me jump into my Monday.com account. And the first thing you should make sure you do have is Monday should have, your Monday account obviously should have Dockagent installed. This is very easily done. If you go to the Monday.com marketplace, you can easily search for Dockagent. And once you have it, you can just click sign in to install, or if you're already signed in, it's going to be just an install button. It's a two-click process. One of them would ask you to approve access to your boards. Obviously, this is required to be able to generate documents. Once you've done that, on any board in your Monday account, you would be able to install Dockagent as a view, and then from there on, generate documents whichever way you want. So let's do that together. The first thing I'm going to do is create a new board. I could do that the Monday way, which is adding a new board from scratch or from an existing template. But the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to go to the template center and I'll search for Dockagent templates, and you will find those once you install Dockagent. They come with the app already built in to kind of save you a little bit of hassle. That's going to add a collection of 6 different boards for 6 different use cases. We're going to use one of them for the next few minutes in terms of demoing how to use Dockagent. So here we go. We have a recruiting board. We have invoices, customer quotes, timesheets, minutes of meetings, and NDAs. I'm going to stay on the recruiting board for now. And let's say we have a need as a company to be able to generate certain types of HR letters or HR documents, such as an offer letter for a successful candidate. And we do have this information in a board. So we track candidates, let's say on a Monday board. And when the time is right, we want to issue an offer letter without having to retype everything all over again. So what we have in this board is we have the first column is the name of the candidate. We have a column, a person column for the manager. I'm going to put myself here on one of them. I'm going to see if I can add other people as well. So depending on the access that the board provides, I'm going to say change the board type to shareable. That might give me access to more people on the account, and I can add whoever is on the account to this column. I have a column here for offer letters. For the offer date, which will appear on the offer letter. I have a column for the position being offered, starting date, an hourly rate, and some contact information such as the phone and the address. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add a Dockagent view, and this is a must for any kind of Dockagent activity. You first have to add a view. So I'm going to go to the View Center, and I'm going to type Dockagent, and there's just one type of view, and it's here. And I'll give it a name. I'll call it Offer Letters. I'll wait for it to load. You can add as many Dockagent views as you wish on one board. It could be that you want to generate different kinds of documents. So each Dockagent view would be responsible for generating that one particular type of document. In this case, we're having this view to generate offer letters. I'm going to move into the settings tab. And this is really where you need to set up everything in terms of the document. That there's nothing else beyond this point, really. And I'm going to walk you through it one by one. So the first set of options is the delivery option. How do you want to receive the document once it's generated? The options by default is to receive an email containing the document, but you can also elect to add the document to an existing file column. My board does not have a file column in it, so I don't have that option here, but I'm going to switch back to the board. I'm going to add a file column. And oops, I added two by mistake, so I'm going to delete one of them. I'm going to call it offer letters. So this is where the documents are going to end up. Let me try that again. And once I've done that, for some reason it's not renaming. I'm going to keep it as it is for now. I'm going to switch back to Dockagent, and I'm going to switch on the toggle for saving the documents to this particular column, which didn't get added apparently. So let me see if we can do that now. So for some reason, that first column is not detected, but the second column has been detected. It's called files one. I can rename it. And in this case, I've told Dockagent, when you generate the document, attach it to files one column. I'm going to undo the checkbox for the email attachments because I'm getting enough emails as it is. But also note that if you do elect to receive by email, you can also add subscribers to the board on your recipient list so that they get the same document. I'm going to undo that for now. And in addition, you can also add the document to the conversation feed of the item from where the information is coming. Next is the information related to the document format. The first thing is the document name that gets generated. So if you leave that blank, Dockagent will automatically give the documents the same name as the view name. However, you can set a different name here. For example, let me call it my offer letters. That's going to be a static name in this case. And we will later on see how we can change it to be dynamic, meaning I can have that name of the document change based on the information in the board. Next is probably the most important bit, which is the template that Dockagent will use to generate the document. So it's going to be a Word document that has placeholders in it, meaning tags that allow us to tell Dockagent where to fill in the information. I'm going to come back to that in a bit because it requires quite a bit of discussion. So I'm going to skip that for now. And finally, I can decide what document formats I can use. If I select PDF, I can also unselect document, Word document, and I can select RTF if needed. But typically PDF is what most people would opt for, unless you want to have the flexibility of editing the document later on, in which case you probably would want to use the Microsoft Word format. Last but not least is the table styling. So if your document is going to contain information from more than one row, in other words, if it's going to contain a table of rows from your board, then you want to tell Dockagent how to format that table. First of all, whether you want to have the headers of the columns present, meaning the labels for your columns, and if so, how do you want to format that row for the headers? And in addition, depending on which columns you have on your board, you can specify which ones should or shouldn't appear on your document. So for the sake of an example, I'm going to say we need to generate a simple one-page document that lists the candidates and the offers we are going to make them. So it's not necessarily an offer letter, it's just a list. In this case, I do want a display table. For clarity reasons, I'm going to make the first row bold, the header. I do want the name of the candidate. I do not want the offer letter column. I do want the manager column, the date, the position, the starting date, the hourly rate, but maybe not the contact information. So I've unchecked those. So now if I do generate a document, and I can do that from here by clicking generate document. And once the document is generated, and you see the name is my offer letters, which is a static name that I've set in the settings. So once it's generated, we're going to open it. The first time you run Dockagent, it might take a little bit longer than usual because it needs to load some libraries. But once this is done, I can open it. It downloaded it to my desktop. And this is how it would then appear. So now I have a simple table containing the columns I selected. And you'll notice that the heading of the table is there with the bold text. There's a funny sum at the end of the hourly rate column, which doesn't necessarily make sense. But the good news is you can remove it if you so wish. So I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to scroll down to the hourly rate column, and I'm going to uncheck the sum. But in addition to that, I would like to add a unit to it, which is a $sign. Now, currently, Dockagent cannot detect which units you have on your board. So you're going to need to add that as well in the settings. But very soon, we will be releasing a new version of Dockagent that's going to allow you to use the same units as the board without having to bother setting this yourself. Let me generate the document again. I'll go to the Documents tab. And again, I'm going to download the latest document. And there you go. In this case, a very simple document. It's the list of offers. There is no sum row. And we have the $sign that we added as a unit to that particular column. So far, what we've been able to do is generate a document as a table, tabular document, without even using a template. We used the simple settings of Dockagent to be able to do that. What we're going to discuss next is how we can do document generation with templates, which becomes much more powerful as in this case, it will generate documents the exact same way you want them to appear with your branding. So if anyone has any questions so far on what we've seen, I'll be happy to answer that before we move on to the templates bit. So I currently don't think there are any questions. I'll give it another second.
Well, I have a question about the send as an email attachment box.
Yeah, sure.
So when you tick the box send as an email attachment, that always ends up in your inbox, right? It's not able to be sent to someone in maybe an email column or something like that. You can't choose who to send it to.
Okay, that's a very good question. So currently, when you set the toggle to send as an email attachment, it will send it to the person who generated the document, the person who clicks that button, or the person who, let's say, changes the status that triggers Dockagent. And we'll see that later on.
Okay.
Now, if you do want to send that document to someone else, let's say someone whose email address is in a column on your board, then you would just have to wait for a couple of more weeks because in April, we will be releasing that capability. So you will be able to specify an email column on your board and then tell Dockagent, in this case, to send whatever document is generated to that specific email address for that role.
Okay, that's great.
No worries, my pleasure. Cool, any other questions? Fantastic. So the next topic is the templates, and really this is where the power of Dockagent is best utilized. So a template is simply a Word document. So I'm gonna do that for you from scratch here. I'm gonna say, let me start my Word software. All right, so we have Word. I'm gonna start a blank document. Oops. I'm sorry, I think I was muted for a bit. So here we are. I am going to generate or create a template to be used by Dockagent. So now I have Microsoft Word is up and running. I started with a blank template altogether, a blank document. And I'm gonna say, let's say this is an offer letter. So I'm going to say, dear, and then I want the name of the person here. And I'm gonna say, I am pleased to offer you this offer to join our company as a, and then a position. You will be reporting to, and then the name of the manager, the suggested start date is, and then a date is here, and then I'll say regards, and I want my name here. So that could be anybody in your company using Monday.com. You want their name to appear when they click the button to generate a document. So before I lose my work for any unforeseen events, I'm going to save that file. I'm going to say to call it the HR template offers, let's say, and I'm going to save this on my desktop. Fantastic. I'm going to put it in my documents, easier to find, and here it is. So now this is a very crude letter template. Obviously, you can have it much more interesting by adding your logo or your letterhead. And in fact, you can easily find some sample templates on our website. If you go to support.dockagent.io and you search for templates or template gallery, if you wish, the page is right here. It contains several templates, including a candidate offer letter template that works specifically with this board that we're working on. That's part of the Dockagent template, but there are others as well that you can use as a starting point. In our case here, we're just creating one from scratch, obviously for the purpose of illustration. Now, when we create a template, we need to fill in some pieces of information from the board. And to do that, we use what is called placeholders that tell Dockagent what information to bring into this space. For example, in this here, in this first bit, we want to insert the name of the person, which is the very first column on your board. You will know that in Monday.com, the first column on any board does not have a column header. You can't rename it, unlike the other columns that I can name whatever I want. So the first column is usually called the item in Monday.com. And that's why the placeholder for that is very special. So if you go again to our website, support.dockagent.io, and let's say you search for placeholders, you will find the full list, the reference list of placeholders. You can also go there directly from the settings. So if I go to my offer letters Dockagent View, and I go to settings, there is a direct link to the templates, to the placeholders, apologies, on the settings here, but you can access it as well by searching for it. Now on that page on our website, there is a long list of placeholders you can use. And obviously I know those very well, so I'm gonna jump straight to the one that I need, which is this one here. It's called column first row colon item. So that one essentially brings the value from the very first column in the document. So let me go here and paste that placeholder right here. Now notice that with placeholders, they will, when they're filled with the actual data, when the document is generated, they will take the same formatting that you set the placeholder at. So for example, this is bold. So once we generate our first document using this template, you will see that the name will appear, excuse me, the name will appear as bold. You may or may not want this, but it's good to know that you can have the formatting done for you. So let's move on to the next placeholder. It says, I'm pleased to offer you this offer to join our company as a position. So let's go to our board and let's see what the position column is called. It's actually called position. Fantastic. Now the placeholder to bring the value from a specific column that is not the first column is this one right here. It's column first row and then the column label. So I'm going to copy this and I will come here and I'll paste it. And I just need to replace column label with the actual label of the column on my board. It's called position. There is an extra space. I'm going to remove it. So there we go. And then it says you will be reporting to, and that is on my board, the manager. So I'm going to use the same placeholder again, but this time I will be using the label of manager. So this time the Dockagent placeholder is telling Dockagent, bring in the value from the manager column. And finally, I need also to put the same placeholder here, but in this case, I want the date, which is right here called starting date. I'm going to actually copy it as it is. And right here, just make sure you don't have extra spaces inside the placeholder. Finally, I need to place here my name as a user, which is not on the board, but which is something available in your Monday account. So if I go to the placeholders reference, which is here, you will see there is a set of placeholders related to the user. You can insert the username, the user ID, email, phone, and profile pic. I'm going to start with the username, and I'll paste it here. And below that, let's say I want to put my email address, and I'll place it here. Now, because these are placeholders, the value that will appear in the document will be different depending on who is the user who's generating the document. Excellent. So I think we're ready now with a template that has all the placeholder filled in. I'm going to make sure I save the document. I'll keep it open, it doesn't matter. And I'll go back to my Dockagent view. I'll switch to the offer letter Dockagent view, and then I'll switch to the settings tab. And all I'll need to do is upload that template by clicking select template. That's the template we just created. So it will take a few seconds to load. So a large document obviously will take longer depending on your internet connection. But once it's uploaded, that's it. You have it saved and you'll be able to use it. Now, let's click generate document one more time. And let's see what we get in this case. Again, might take slightly longer the first time you have it with a template, but it's never more than a minute, I would say, if it's taking long. All right, so let me switch to the main table while Dockagent is doing its thing. And I should be able, there you go. We have the file generated. It's the second one here. Unless it's an old one, let me check the content. That's the old one, so we might have to wait a little bit more. Let me try again. And let me open the document that was just generated. So now it should follow the style of the template I've uploaded. So you'll notice it filled in the first placeholder with the name of the person from the first column. It filled in the position, filled in the manager's name and the start date. And at the end, for the username and the user email address, they were filled in as well. Now, obviously, this is a simple template. It can be as elaborate as you would wish it to be, with logos, with any kind of text you need. It doesn't have to go 1 page long. It could be much longer. It's really up to you, and it can pull information from any column you have on your board. Now, you will notice something when you click that green button. It doesn't ask us which row in the board is going to be generated. So what Dockagent does is, by default, it picks up the first row that it finds, which is Jim Smith in this case. But in our case, what I want to do is I want to tell Dockagent specifically which row needs to be generated as a document. So what I want to do is I want to do it, there's 3 ways to do it. One way to do it, which is using a button column. So this is a standard Monday.com button column. I called it offer letter. And I'm going to set it up such that when I click on any one of them, Dockagent will generate a document for that particular person. So to do that, I'm going to go to the Integrations Center. I'm going to search for Dockagent. And I will click on the Dockagent Integrations. Now, Dockagent comes in with 3 built-in integrations. The first one is based on creating a document when a certain date arrives, a certain date column on your board. The second integration is based on status. So if you have a status column, you can tell Monday.com or Dockagent to generate a document whenever the status is changed to a specific value. And finally, you can use the button column as well, which is what we want to do. So I'm going to click on the third option. And once I clicked on it, I'm just going to wait until the integration screen loads. It's going to ask me for a couple of parameters, nothing more. All right, so it's going to load the integration screen in a second. And the first parameter is which button. So obviously we do have one button on the board that's called offer letter. So I'm going to tell Dockagent when this particular button is clicked, I want you to generate a document using the settings from a specific view. And in this case, remember we called our view the offer letters. Now it's important you type in the view name exactly as you've named it, including punctuation and capitalization. The good news is that next month, the new release of Dockagent will allow you to select the view from a drop-down instead of having to type the name all over. So I'm gonna say that's fine, we're done. And because that view includes the template and all the settings, you don't need to specify anything more. Really, setting the view in the integration is enough for Dockagent to figure out all the features you want in the document. And that's it, really, we're done. So what I'm going to do is, let me pull that file column a bit closer. And let me say I want to generate a document for Bob Pavlak here, which is the second row. So I'm going to click on the integration of the button column. And here it is. It got generated. So I'm going to click on it. And this time it should be Bob Pavlak in there. It is indeed, with Bob's name and his details. Obviously, I can do that as many times as needed. If I do change something in the values here, I need to regenerate the document, I can do it. Let me try the last row here, which is Natasha Doe. So here it is, the document has been generated. I'm going to open it as well. And there you go. It has Natasha's name and her details. So that's how you can generate a document using a template and then make it further easier by adding a button column that allows you to generate a document for any specific row you have on your board. So with that, I'm going to pause a little bit for any questions you might have before we move on to a little bit more advanced topics. All right, seems like there are no questions. That's fine. Super. So before I jump into more advanced topics, I want to show you a couple of things. First of all, we have what is called the statistics tab in DocuGen. This allows you to see up-to-date information on your consumption. So obviously this account here has been using Dockagent for a while. The first statistic here shows you the number of documents generated by all users since the last reset date. So every month your consumption is reset to 0. And this small number is what is your quota for any given month. So obviously this is a special demo account. I have a very large quota, but typically if you're on the free tier, you have a quota of 100 documents per month. And the second number is the lifetime documents generated by me as a user. Obviously, if someone else is looking at that same page, it will show them the numbers of documents generated by them. So it's kind of a statistic that helps you see your consumption. The last tab in DocuGen is the subscription tab. This is very simple. It tells you which tier you're on. So I'm currently on the free tier. And if I would like to upgrade to a larger number of documents, I can do that by selecting any of the other tiers. And it's a very easy checkout process using credit card. You can do it at any time if you need additional documents. Sometimes some customers might want to have more than 500 documents per month. So we have packages that go literally to, as many documents as you wish, could be hundreds of thousands per month. This is something we can cater for on a case-by-case basis. I would like to go back to the settings. And if you remember, there was the document name here that I set to be static at my offer letters. Obviously, if all the documents I generate are called my offer letters, it's going to be very hard after a while to figure out which one is which. So I want to give my documents dynamic names. So I want to give them names that change every time I generate a new one. In this case, I want to give my documents a name that starts with the candidate's name. In this case, very simple. I'm going to copy the placeholder for the item name, which is this one, and I'm going to use it in the document name, just like I do with the template. So I'm going to go to the beginning here and paste it and say '(S) offer letter. So it's not anymore my offer letter. It's, let's say, Natasha Doe's offer letter or Jim Smith's offer letter. That being the case, if I do generate a document, you would see that the name, once the document is generated, will be a bit more personalized. And you can do that with any other placeholders. So most of the placeholders on this page are supported in the document name. There are just a few that are not, but you can basically use those into your document name and make sure it's a unique document name every time you generate it. I'm mindful of the time, so maybe in the last 10 minutes, I can do a couple of things. One is I would like to walk you through a more advanced use case scenario that could be of interest, and two, address any questions you might have so far. Maybe we can pause now for any questions. All right, no questions. So I'm going to move forward. I'm going to switch to a different board now. Let's call it the NDA board. So that's a typical legal term. It stands for non-disclosure agreement. It's a very standard kind of agreement that two parties might sign up to. Now, I had a client the other day who wanted to generate an agreement and send it for signature, electronic signature, to his customer. But moreover, he wanted also that the information about the customer be filled in by the customer themselves through a form, rather than him having to type this information in. So what we came up with was a very beautiful solution that didn't require any special know-how, nor any special applications. What we did was, first of all, we created a form, a Monday form, which I'm going to do now, that allows the customer to fill in their details. So customer details. We're going to ask the customer for their name. It's required. We're going to ask for, we're not going to ask for this. We're not going to ask for the NDA date. We're not going to ask for the jurisdiction or the courts. nor the update. However, there's something important that's missing, which is the email address of the customer. So I'm going to add another column here. As an email column. And that will be used as well in the form. So I'm going to have to add it to the form. And it's going to be required. So now that we have that form ready, I'm going to share the form and I'm going to click on the copy and I'm going to open it from an incognito window, which allows me to pretend that I'm not logged into Monday. And fantastic, here's the form. I'm going to leave it open for now. I'm going to switch back to my Monday board. And obviously, if you're familiar with Monday forms, what they do is you fill in the document or fill in the form rather, it then sends the information to your board. Now, what I want to do is I want to have a column to store the document that Dockagent will generate. So for that, I'm going to use a file column. I'm going to also use a status column to keep track of where the document is. And I'm going to customize the different options there. So I'm going to say, let me do this one as ready for signature. And done will be signed. Stuck will be stuck. And I'm going to remove the other ones that are not going to be used by us. I'm going to move ready for signature before signed. And I'm going to click apply. And finally, I need to make sure that we have a column for an app called OP Sign, which handles e-signature. So let me add a column. It has to be a link column. And I can just keep it called as link or as, let's say, signed doc. So now we have a simple board where I will have a button to generate the NDA. The NDA should be saved in the files column. And then depending on status, it would be sent to a recipient for e-signature. Now let's do that. Let's first add Dockagent to generate the document. So I'm going to go to the views. All right, that was done by mistake. I'm going to delete that calendar view. And I'm going to add Dockagent again. And I'll call it NDA. I'll go to the settings. And I'll say attach it to the files column. I'm just going to leave the document name blank. I'm going to say make it PDF. And I'm going to spare myself trouble of coming up with a template. I'm going to go to the template gallery on our website. There is a template just for this. And it should be right here. Yeah, let's use this one, the non-disclosure agreement. I'm going to download it. And it's a simple Word document again, very simple. There you go, with the placeholders in it. I'm going to go back to my board and I'm going to select that template. Now this is a relatively large template. It's 0.5 meg, so it took a little bit longer. But that being said, let me try to generate a document with that template just to make sure it works as intended. And in fact, I'll check that on the board itself to make sure that the file is attached to the file column once the document is generated. Great, so let me click on it. And there you go, the document is generated based on the template and the placeholders are filled in, which is fantastic. I'm going to close that. I'm going to remove that file. And now I need to set up OP Sign. So OP Sign is an app from the marketplace that allows you to send documents for e-signature. It's one of the top installed apps, op.sign. And I have it already installed on our Monday account. So I'm going to go ahead and I will add an OP-Sign integration to my board. There we go. And OP-Sign comes with 4 integrations. They might look elaborate, but they're relatively simple. The one we need is this one here, which is really triggered when a status is changed. So I'm going to click on it. And OP-Sign does not require you to create an account, but it does require you to authenticate your email address, which I'm doing now. What it does is it sends me sort of a one-time code on my email. It does that only once, the first time you use that integration on your board. So here's the number I received, and I'm going to click next. And it's going to obviously ask me for authorization, which I will do. And then it's going to load the integration screen that I was after in the first place. So what's going to happen is I'm going to fill in every parameter. So when the status column changes to ready for signature, I want to send the document that's saved in the files column for signature to the recipient's email, which comes from the email column. When the recipe is done, place the result in the signed doc column. It has to be a link column. That's how OP-Sign works. And then change the same status to either success, so signed, or failure, which is stuck. So it's quite a few parameters to fill in, but that's all you need to do. And I'm going to add it to the board and close it. So essentially what we're telling OP-Sign to do is, if it notices that the status has changed to ready for signature, it's going to look for any file here and then send it for signature. So let's see how this works. I'm going to go here to the form. I'm going to say, here's my email address and my name. I'll go back to my board. That was added, which is great. I might want to add some additional information. That information could be filled in or could be automated. But once I'm done, I can click on that generate NDA, which is not set up yet. I forgot to do that. So it's very simple. I'm going to create another integration for DocuGen. Which is this one here, button integration. And like we did last time on the recruitment board, it's going to ask me for 2 things. It's going to ask me for which button column, we only have one, and which Dockagent View to use. We have one as well. It's called NDA. So let's fill this in. So when the generate NDA button is clicked, use settings from the NDA view to generate a document. So that's it really. I had forgotten to create that integration for the button, but now it's done. So now if we click any of those buttons, like Will Smith, we just received it by form submission. I'll click on this and you'll notice the file will be created. And I will initiate e-signature by saying ready for signature. And what this is going to be doing is that it's going to initiate OP-Sign here. It says processing. And within seconds, it's going to say sent for signature. So here you go. And obviously where it's sent to that email address that the customer filled in. So that being the case, let me log into my Gmail account. I should have received an email from OP-Sign. Here it is. And in this case, I'm the customer. I'm the recipient of that document to sign. So I'm going to click on review and sign. you will see the same PDF that Dockagent generated. Which is right here with the information that was filled in when the document was generated moments ago. If I'm ready to sign, I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to say add signature, and this is OP Sign doing its magic. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to click finish. Now I'm going to go back to the board quickly to show you what's going on. So automatically this has been updated to signed document, and the status has been updated to sign. The signed document is available on this link. So OP Sign makes your signed documents available online. You can go there to this link and download the file if you so need. So here's the document with the signature. Whereas on the board, we also have the document before it was sent for signature, right after Dockagent generated it, which is right here. So we just created a complete workflow for generating documents from a form submission and then sending those documents for e-signature via email. And really, the whole thing did not require any specialist knowledge or complicated setup. It's just putting together the building blocks of Monday.com and the apps on the marketplace. So that's really all from my side. Some parting words before I open the floor for questions is that we do have live support agents available for help. I actually have 4 live agent supports. There's 3 of which are in US time zones and 1 is in UK time zone. And they are available in-app in the chat widget. So that widget here, if I expand it, I can drop them a message and somebody will come back to me within a minute and engage in chat to help you resolve your problem if you have any question or if you're trying to figure out how to do something. You can also find a wealth of information on our support website, which is support.dockagent.io. And you can search, you can find stuff, very easy to do. And obviously, if you have any questions, I'm also happy to receive any of your questions at any time. I love speaking with clients, and I will type my email address in the chat of the webinar. It's sami@cloudconceptgroup.com. If you would like to reach out to me directly, I'm more than happy to do that to answer your questions, or if you have any questions about our product roadmap or anything that you might want to inquire about. Super. So I'll just ask if there are any more questions. I'll be happy to address them. If not, we will call it a day. Okay, so it seems like there are no more questions. I will be emailing you this webinar recording right after this call. And I look forward to having you use Dockagent and create all the documents you need to do. All right, thank you very much.